Welcome to the Society of Cryptid Hunters podcast. Josh and David are just two regular guys who share a passion for cryptids and our world's weird and unknown things. Please follow us on your favorite podcast platform and consider supporting us by subscribing or liking our show. Join us on our journey as we delve into the world of cryptozoology.
Well, welcome to the Society of Cryptid Hunters podcast. We're very excited to have you here today. If you haven't already subscribed to our channels on, where are we at? All over the place. I mean, by now you should know if you're listening to our show.
Facebook.
Well, join our Facebook group for sure. That's where all the conversation should be happening. If you're on the Facebook groups, be more active. We want to hear from you. Let's get excited about some things.
We want to hear local stuff too.
Let's get talking. I want to have some amazing conversations on that for sure. Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Podcast, and the one that seems to be the top one is Apple Podcast. So make sure you guys make sure you're listening, subscribing, liking, sharing with your friends. If it's something that we want to talk about, we talk about cryptozoology, cryptids, UFOs, conspiracy theories, all kinds of things on the show. So, but David, we have a great show today, don't we? Something we want to talk about for a while.
I do want to do a disclaimer. Josh, I've been bugging you for months to do this one, haven't I?
You have. And I kind of feel like I posted a picture in the Facebook group. So those of you that are not on the Facebook group will not get this. But those of you that are will. I posted a picture of the West Virginia cryptids. They're like kind of sitting in a diner. And on the table, there was a Mothman, a Flatwoods monster, and another creature, which David was like, Josh, what is that? And I told you, and immediately you started looking that up. I know you did.
Yeah, because it looks super cool. And what we're doing today is the Grafton Monster.
The Grafton Monster. That's right. That's right, folks. We're going to do an episode on the Grafton Monster. Please stick with us through the whole show and, just let us know what you think.
Well, I'm going to kick it off with a little bit on the backstory of the Grafton Monster, which the Grafton Monster is described as being 7 or 9 feet tall and 4 feet wide, having white seal-like skin. The monster also possesses no distinctive head. The Grafton Monster's head was rested in the middle of his chest. The Grafton Monster has very deep bellow screeching sounds and that could be heard for miles.
It sounds like a linebacker from the Chicago Bears in 1985.
Oh, I know. Because if you look at the pictures, which I want everybody, we're going to post it on the Facebook group, and we're going to
we'll go hard on the Grafton Monster. We got to bring him up a little bit.
And I'm going to get into sightings later, but there is sightings out there about it. I'll talk about it a little in a little bit. But I think the Grafton Monster is so cool. That's why I told Josh, like, what is that? And I want to know what it is because it's so cool looking.
Yeah.
There's no head. It's huge. It has linebacker shoulders.
Yeah.
And again, for all of our listeners out there that know about cryptids, there's a lot of cryptids in West Virginia.
Yeah, I mean, it's coming down to the thing where you have to decide which state. If you were doing cryptid tourism, if that became like a business,
it'd be West Virginia.
I would pick West Virginia right off the bat. They have the museum, dude. Okay, in West Virginia, they have a Mothman Museum and Festival. They have a Flatwoods Monster Museum and Festival, and they have a Grafton Monster Festival.
I did research that. I watched the festival. You can go watch that on YouTube. By the way, they also have a Bigfoot festival too.
Goodness gracious.
West Virginia. Yeah.
I mean, just to visit the museums and go on the little tours and hey, let's do the little sighting adventures in my little Jeep or whatever. Come on, West Virginia. I mean, I know it's not the biggest state when it comes to GDP and everything, but We can definitely do something with the tourism with the cryptids.
Oh, and recently opened, there is a Grafton Monster Museum now in
Oh, is there?
Grafton.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, they
I got to
sell
put
all
that on my
kinds.
database.
So
Got to get that in there.
I watched the video on that. It's so cool that I am going to be buying some of their stuff because they have figurines and there's a book out there. I'll get into the book. Well, I mean, I didn't read the book. I don't know anything about it, but the book is called The Beast of Grafton. So I'm gonna order that.
Yeah, that's another. Yeah, that's actually another term that they use for the Grafton monsters, the Beast of Grafton. So they've called it both things.
Yeah, and well, I mean, there's dogmen up there, and that's one of the things they thought this was. But I'm just gonna get into the sighting. The original sighting
Yeah, let's do
for
it.
everybody out there on June 16th, 1964. Robert Cockrell got off
Cockle.
work at his local newspaper publication at Grafton Sentinel at 11 p.m. He went home. He drove down the Yates Avenue along the western banks of the Tigert River. I don't know how to say that. He turned a curve in the road and encountered the Grafton Monster.
Mm.
It was huge, white, in an obstruction, man-looking hominid with slick white skin and no head. The no head thing is not only so cool to me, but like so indicative to what this monster is.
Yeah.
He rushed home terrified and called his friends. Um, so after this, the one problem I have with the original sighting is the guy works for the newspaper. He goes home
Mm.
and he was
Yeah.
supposed to write an article about something because he was getting pressure from his editor.
Oh,
And he doesn't write that article. He writes an article for the next day about this Grafton monster. And after the article comes out, you get sightings from neighbored small towns around Grafton of like I've seen something exactly like that, and they report into the newspaper, which
yeah.
is so wild. Like, because when we do these research, Josh, we always look to see if there's more than one account
Right, right.
of this cryptid because that's the first thing I look at when I start researching. I'm like, well, is it just one dude that maybe like took too much drugs one day? But no, there's more sightings afterwards. After this, there is more sightings. And I was very skeptic at first because it was a journalist, basically a journo, that put it in a newspaper. I was like, oh,
Did
maybe
you just do a Green Street Hooligans reference?
Oh, I'm glad you
Come
noticed that.
on.
That wasn't you. Yeah, you bloody journo. Yeah. Oh
I'll
yeah,
call
I
you out
definitely
on
did
that.
that.
It's all good.
Um,
Hey, watch that movie. Check it out.
Greatest movie ever.
That's
Um,
a great movie.
so yeah, so I thought I was like, oh, maybe his newspaper was dying and he just threw this in there. But there's more sightings after that, and I'm
That's
gonna get in.
crazy. You know what I mean? That's just nuts. Just like just think about it. The coincidence of that. And then the like, oh, I and then this guy needs something and then he actually sees something. It's like, here you go. But then
So
it's actually something that's a real thing. Could possibly be a real thing.
not only like when they just like all those sightings, they describe this figure that's again really tall, 7 to 10 feet tall, and has
I heard
really
like 7 to 9. I was reading like seven
yeah,
to nine. Like,
really long arms though, and at some point walking on all fours with the long arms. So like super big, but will stand up with the big arms. And I'm gonna talk about another sighting. So there's another sighting um that the police were involved. The police were called because this guy was like, "Hey man, I was out there fishing and it was in Grafton and he uh he's out there fishing and he said the Grafton monster hit him out of the boat and then sunk the boat and then
oh,
hung around for a while and then went off. And he told the police officer, he's like, I honestly think that monster just did that just to sink the boat. He's like, he didn't mess with me. He didn't do anything else. He just wanted to sink the boat. And then he went off into the water and then back into the forest and was gone.
that's crazy.
And then now I'm going to talk about the third sighting. Third sighting in the mid 80s. Very crazy. Father and son, they're cutting trees down. Cutting these trees down just out there with their chainsaws, just getting at it. And all of a sudden, they look over because their dogs start barking at something at the tree line
Whoa.
that is not in where they're already cutting their trees down because they already have fallen trees in the designated areas that they're cutting trees down, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they see this giant thing walk out and it had no head and their dogs are barking at it and they're like, "Oh God." So one of them, I think it was the dad. Yeah, it was the dad. He runs to his car, grabs his shotgun, and he racks around. He's about to shoot and he notices that the Grafton Monster doesn't notice him. And he's like, "That's weird," because they're not that far away from each other. And he notices the Grafton Monster doesn't have a head, and he's like, "I don't think this thing sees me." And the Grafton Monster just not looks around because it doesn't have a head, but just kind of moves around.
I've seen like weird pictures where like it has like eyes where your chest would be. It's really
Mm,
weird.
So I think that might be artist renditions, and
For
um,
sure.
I didn't
Yeah.
want to talk about that because like in every account that I've read, no one said the specifically these guys that were cutting trees down said that this body had no eyes and had no head.
That's
And
crazy.
that's what's completely like so not only did they not shoot it, they were like, I don't know what this thing is and I don't know what's happening. And it
Yeah.
walked across them and went back into the forest. And they were like, I don't think this thing even knew we were there. That's why they didn't
Oh
shoot
my
it.
goodness. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So I have looked into recent accounts because I've said this before that I need to start looking on the YouTubes to see if there's sightings, recent sightings of this. And there's like I wrote it down somewhere. It's like uh some kind of mountain show. There's like a weird show where they post stuff or they talk about stuff and it was in West Virginia. I'll find it in a little bit.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no.
Oh, it's
I saw
called
that
Mountain
too.
Hunters.
Yeah, Mountain
Yeah.
Hunters. That's it.
Yeah, Mountain Hunters. They have a video. I go watch it because they have it on YouTube. And then if you just look, if you search Grafton Monster sightings, they also show the sighting. So there's some guy that was featured on the Mountain Hunter show that shows a sighting of it. The and I always talk about this. Like the video is not very revealing.
Yeah.
When you go and watch it, like yeah. They talk about how there's cattle in front and the monster is behind it and the cattle are much smaller than the size of the being behind it. It's not very good. I hate that. We all know if you listen to our podcast, you know I hate grainy pictures and video of stuff that I
Doesn't
can't.
everybody that follows cryptids and everything else?
Right.
Everything's blurry. It's the majority of my jokes on the Facebook page, which you should be on if you're not.
Josh, you hail from the great state of Ohio, which is right by West Virginia.
In Ohio, yeah, but I live in Texas now. Yeah, so, but yeah,
I've never been to
but yeah.
Ohio or West Virginia, but you've been around there, and you know
Oh,
about how there's
oh yeah.
the Mothman.
You know, yeah. Oh yeah. Oh well. Let me get it. I'm glad you brought that up because we did lots of talking about the Mothman. We did, and we had an episode about the Flatwoods Monster in the past, and we talked about that in the past. But what's interesting is about this Grafton Monster, which I just wanted to bring up, was how West Virginia is known for so many cryptids, and the number one is definitely the Mothman, just because it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool thing. They got a movie out of it, a book, and there's some kind of supernatural thing to it, which is, how does it make it like cryptid? How does it make these things work? It's interesting in that aspect. The next thing on is the Flatwoods Monster. There's a big lore thing because of one incident, and we don't know if it was actually a giant owl or what. We have no idea, but it became a very big thing.
Yeah.
Very big thing. There's action figures made, all kinds of things of this thing because the story had just gone on for so long, and it's just fascinating. But if West Virginia was really smart, The Grafton Monster could actually be a real thing. That could be some like
That's what I'm saying.
sedimentary
Yeah.
monster that does it like you think of like trolls in the mountains and old lore and things like that. That maybe and there's a lot of in West Virginia. There's it's close to the Appalachian Mountains. There's a lot of things there it can hide in, mines, whatever. 7 to 8 foot tall, that's great. But if that thing can crouch down and like just sit there and not move for years, whatever, once in
Might
a
look
while it
like a rock or
moves.
something.
There's more sightings of the Grafton Monster than there is the Mothman and the Flatwoods Monster.
Whoa, just blow my mind.
Is
Really?
what I want to say. Is that's what I want to say. Is that that fact right there alone makes me say, hey, stop searching for things that happened once. Look for things where it happened multiple times. Okay. And even in our previous episodes, we talked about things that happen multiple times, but like they don't get escalated to Bigfoot status or Mothman status. They get escalated to whatever status, something we randomly bring up on the show. But I'm just saying the Grafton Monster is something like look into. That could be like a folklore creature that is legit.
So the more I got into it, the more they were talking about how unique the description of the creature was. And there is so many sightings, like you just said, Josh, that I was looking into that um the people that cite it, they're like, yeah, we know about the stories of the dog man and other things, but they said like we've seen this and we've seen we've heard talk to other people that have accounted this thing. And in West Virginia, they call it an unknown species. What is an unknown species? It is called a cryptid.
Absolutely. Yes. That's right.
So is there something out there? I'm thinking yes. We always talk about this. What do we actually think? I will tell you, this is unknown. This is more unknown than a lot of things that we research, we look into. Josh
Yeah.
lives up there. He knows the unknown up there. I started looking into it. I was like, well, maybe is this like some sort of UFO stuff, like with the Mothman and stuff? No, it's not like that. There is mountain men because we all know there's like I hate the term hillbilly because I think it's derogative.
I call
However,
them kids hillbillies.
but there is mountain men up there. If you go watch this on YouTube, like there's these mountain men that are up there. They're like, I seen it. I seen it, man. I seen it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but who's to say like something's just doesn't turn into a rock when it's sleeping? And you walk on it when you're doing your little hike through the Appalachian Trail. Do do do. Actually, the Appalachian Trail does not go through West Virginia. Just want to make that clear.
I don't know. I've
But
never been up there.
well, if you go through any trails in West Virginia, if that's where that's the only spot that I know of where the Grafton Monster's been sighted. So with all the mining that goes on, the dynamite explosions, this and that, who knows if the dynamite explosions doesn't wake it up once in a while and it walks around and find a new place to sleep. Maybe that's just what it does.
I did want to say, Josh, I want to talk about what I wanted to do this little segment about what it potentially could be. And for all the listeners out there, I will see you on the other side of this, and you will understand after I start talking. So let's get into what people think it is actually.
Okay. I
Um,
like this. Let's do it.
so Josh, have you ever heard of a golem?
Yes. I have heard of a golem,
A
but not
golem
Gollum, but not Gollum. Golem, right?
A golem is an animated
My
being
precious.
in Jewish folklore, which is created entirely from an animated matter, usually clay or mud. Most famous golem narrative involves Judah with the 16th century, according to the golem is highly yeah. Anyway, so basically, like
Fascinating, actually.
yeah, so in Jewish lore, they think that they use these golems as a protection. Um,
Hmm.
so they basically make a man out of clay, and this guy is like a century, like a century. in front of to ward off like evil and to stop and basically battle uh enemies that are coming in. I started looking into it. I was like, Josh, we could probably do a whole episode on golems because there's a lot into it. And I don't want to talk too much into it, but I thought that was very interesting. Do you know anything about this subject at all?
The golems?
Hmm.
Not in depth, but I do know like there's been a lot of old movies. It's been around for years, and I know the folklore behind it, um, with what you just mentioned. So, but yeah, that's about the extent of it, though.
Safeguarding Jewish communities for protection. So,
It's a big thing in
so,
Minecraft too. If anybody plays Minecraft,
so, so so I went down a rabbit hole. The reason I bring up the golem is because people in the area of the Grafton brought it up like, oh, this is a golem, and I was like, what? So I started looking into it because they think that so basically a golem is like made by somebody, right? And they think that the person that made the golem died. And in the folklore it says when the creator of the golem dies, the golem wanders the land after the death of their creator, trying to escape their own death, basically. And they just basically wander, trying to not die because they basically know that their death is imminent, which I thought was
huh.
so interesting, honestly. That's why I was saying like we could probably go more because I have a ton already into it, and I'm like, man, this is so there's so much into this. We could talk about this about something else. Do I think it's a cryptid? No, because it's probably in the like the jinn world, where like genie jinn world kind of
Oh,
lore,
okay,
which is a whole sub genre that we don't get into too much.
yeah.
Um, but I will get into another sighting or idea of what this is. Josh, do you remember the movie that love but you don't like too much, The Mothman Prophecies?
I I never said I didn't like Mothman Prophecies.
I think you just didn't like the fact that it because you read the book and you're like, this is more about
Oh, it's
UFO
different than the
sightings.
book. I didn't like hate it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's recorded, so we can always go back and listen to that
Hmm. Hmm.
conversation.
Hmm.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna talk about Goonies, so but that was the
No,
opposite.
no.
You don't like Goonies, and I do.
So, so in the movie, do you remember how the Mothman, they called Ingrid Cold?
Ingrid Cold. Yes, right.
Yeah. So apparently, as I was researching this, Ingrid Cold is a whole other cryptid in West Virginia. That
Ah,
the people of West Virginia also think like, oh, because they say like, oh, the Mothman is Ingrid Cold, but they also say the Grafton Monster is Ingrid Cold. And I was like, wow. So there's it's like correlating to each other. I was like, wow, this is really fascinating.
so Ingrid Cold is the through the sound waves, and
It's an interdimensional being.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
why like when you start looking into the Mothman, they think like, oh, the Mothman is in between two dimensions, and that's why these things happen. But when you start looking at Ingrid Cold, he's a interdimensional being. I was like, oh, okay, well,
interesting.
there's a lot of correlations between the two. And that was gonna go into my next thing. Interdimensional. I talk about it all the time on our podcast. I'm not a scientist, by the way, Josh. I don't know if you knew this. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a physicist. I'm not a biologist,
I watch a lot of movies.
but I am a cryptozoologist, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
And a
I'm gonna
UFO.
get us some certificates made. It's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely gonna happen. Yeah, it's a
Hanging
great
on my
idea.
wall, especially in my office. It's gonna be great.
Yeah. Obviously, it's got to go in your office.
Yes.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't even know where my college diploma is. I just put it. Yeah, you know.
That's funny. That's a good. I mean, obviously, though, your cryptozoology diploma is going to be bigger than your college diploma.
It's
Come on,
definitely more
Josh.
important now than anything from college these days. I can tell you
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
College is going
absolutely.
away. It's just a money making scheme. But we'll go. That's another show.
That is definitely another conversation for another time. Um, so I'm gonna throw something out there. Josh, you lived up there. Have you ever heard of the cryptids, the white things?
The white things?
The white things, not
Oh,
things.
oh, thing. Oh, white thing is in
Things.
Alabama, I think. No, the white things I have not.
So
Um,
that's another West Virginia cryptid that I guess we're gonna have to look at later. But that's
okay.
another thing. They're like, oh, when you talk to certain locals, they're like, oh, that's a white thing. And because they have these sightings of these white beings, these extremely white looking things that are big and just roam the woods. There's a lot of sightings of the Grafton Monster, which is so interesting, man. Like when I started researching the Grafton Monster, I was like, oh, there's probably not going to be a whole lot, but I really wanted to because I think the Grafton Monster, he's a cute little guy. He's a cute little guy. I like it. I think it's cool. I think he looks cool. But when I started like really researching, I'm like, there's a lot into this, man. There's really a lot into it.
Yeah, there is. And that's what I'm saying is like when it comes to all the cryptids out of West Virginia, Grafton Monster should be a little bit more well known. I don't know how you make like it's just not as like I don't know, like just the way that's described compared to a Mothman or a Flatwoods Monster and those aspects, or even a white thing. It's kind of it has no head. I don't
Yeah, it
know,
has no head. Well, I will
but
get into my own theory, and this is my theory, not anybody else's theory, but I'll tell you what I think the theory is.
mm,
And are you ready for it?
sure.
I think the Philadelphia experiment happened, and one of the sailors on the Philadelphia, when they're phasing through time and space and interdimensions, that that is actually a sailor on the Philadelphia, and it's just roaming the areas of basically West Virginia looking for his boat because he's phasing between
Did you
reality.
say West Virginia?
West Virginia.
Okay, Western Virginia.
I know that's really out there,
Murder.
but I will employ everybody. Someday, if Josh will let me, we'll do a segment on the Philadelphia experiment. But
Josh will let you.
it is crazy. There's a lot of things going on with it, but there is an ideal in it
Huh?
that these sailors phase in and out of time and reality and
That's
space,
crazy.
and that there were in the story. I'll get little into the story, like when they phased back into reality, that their head was inside of bulkheads, and they were missing certain body limbs, and there were also people missing. It's one of my theories. It's a crazy theory, but it's also one of my conspiracy realist theories. Is it probably what's happening? Probably not. Um, Josh, what I actually think is probably happening is like this is one of the actual cryptid episodes that we're doing that I actually think like this thing could actually be real. What do you
Yeah.
think, Josh?
Yeah. No, and other things too is like there's not a lot of pop culture stuff about it, which is interesting too, because if you think of all the bigger ones, there's a lot of pop culture stuff that make you think about Bigfoot, Mothman, so many other things, even aliens at that point. It's like Grafton Monster is not really well known. And it just, I know recently it was the only time I've seen Grafton Monster in pop culture was in the video game Fallout. There's a Grafton Monster in
I was gonna
Fallout.
bring that up. Yeah, yeah, it's in
Yeah,
that.
that's the only time I've ever seen or heard about that. But as for movies, books, I mean, there's some books, yeah, but not as intense. So I'm it is interesting. That the amount of sightings and things, it's happened more than once, but it should be brought up in the echelon of other things that have had a lot of interest. But I don't know. I mean, because we talk about the biggest cryptids of all time. Grafton doesn't make it. Champ doesn't make it. There's a lot of things that just don't make that list that had a ton of sightings. And regardless of what it is, we can't figure out what it is. But like, there's good speculation, and I'm just thinking somebody can be hiking in some trail in West Virginia and be walking on this thing, and they don't even know because sleeping. You know?
I mean,
Yeah.
there's also the idea that like it also looks super cool. When I implore everybody that's listening to this podcast, go Google the image of what the Grafton Monster looks
Yeah.
like and
You're
go
gonna
look
get
at it
Fallout
because
pictures. You're gonna
yeah,
get
yeah, a lot of them are Fallout pictures, but there's also like regular pictures, but it is super cool looking. It
yeah.
also looks like it could definitely beat you up in a fight.
Oh yeah, or just sack your quarterback. Yeah. Yeah, we got the football conference championships coming up.
The
Cowboys
what?
are not in it.
We don't talk about that.
Yeah, we're not gonna talk about sports. Except when there's a cryptid that looks like a linebacker.
Yeah, so back to it, like in the area, do you know where Grafton is, Josh?
Not offhand. I think it's a lot of spots I travel through, and I would expect it's a little bit more northeast of where I would go through normally.
So I watched a lot of videos about like the festival again. There's a lot of festivals, there's a lot of museums, super cool. Um and it looks like a fun place to be. It looks like a very like dense place to go at. The local people, I always like to research and look like do the local people actually believe this and like if there's a festival, they celebrate it, which I also think is cool. But
Yeah,
like
yeah,
there's so many sightings in the area that like the local people actually there's plenty of people that believe it. Um
yeah, yeah. That's like one of the database I have, which is I need to update a little bit more, but I like to put in festivals. A lot of people like to put in like sightings, things like that. I like to put in festivals because we talked about a while back about the leprechaun. Is like how many people in Ireland think the leprechaun's real. It's a
yeah.
majority. And if there's a majority of people in a town that believe in something, it could be story and brought up and things like that. And that's great because we all believe stories. But when there's some truth to it that we don't know, there's a good chance that there's a majority of people that believe in it. There might be some truth to it. So Grafton Monster to have a festival is telling, along with everything else in West Virginia.
By the way, apparently there's a cryptid uh mountain miniature golf. There's also a Grafton Monster White IPA. In
Oh my goodness.
2022, Green Bear Valley Brewing Company in Maxwellton, West Virginia, created the Grafton Monster White IPA. If you're listening to this, please send me and my friend Josh a 6 packs of this. We will drink it and review it if you send it to us.
And lots of credit for you. And we will pay you back probably.
Yeah, and pay you back. Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
there's also like
Huh.
I looked into this, there's a lot of like Bigfoot uh sightings in the same area too. So I don't know if there's a correlation between the two, but like there's enough sightings to where like this I'm gonna say, Josh, like you don't hear me say this often, like I don't know what this is, Josh, and I think it might be real. Might be a new species. It might be something else. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I think it's actually real.
It could be an old species that like it's new to us, but it's just something that wakes up every once in a while. Needs to take a little walk and take a drink from the stream and then go right back to sleep. And that's okay with me because if it got mad, I don't want to see that happen either. So it's happy in West Virginia. It's a quiet, very beautiful state. A lot of people don't give it a lot of credit or to even talk about it, but I've been through West Virginia many times, and it's a very nice state. Just wish there was more jobs and economy that would could support people. With the basically it's a big mining state. Charleston's about everything
It's
but
like coal, right?
yeah, yeah. So, but I had some friends from West Virginia, things like that. So yeah, if it's there, that'd be the place to be for the Grafton Monster.
Well, Josh, do I think it's the Men in Black? No. Do I think it's probably the Mothman? No. Do I think it's maybe an interdimensional being? No. But I think there's something out there. And I think that we're gonna find out someday. I really do. The research I read, I am a believer that this might be a real thing. And you know me, I'm not big on being a believer on things.
Oh, we got you. We finally got you.
Finally got me.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we'll have to leave it at that. Maybe sometime we'll have to. I don't know how you search for something that might be dormant and sleeping all the time. So it just goes for a walk once in a while, maybe every 50 years. Who knows? So yeah, it could be something like that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it definitely could be living in a cave or something because man lived in a cave for a while. I mean, that maybe it comes in and out of that. Again, there's videos you can go out there and watch them. They're on YouTube. The videos are vague to to be best, but yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, well, the Grafton Monster, West Virginia. Folks, if you ever get out to West Virginia, check out everything that it has to offer. We're not getting paid by West Virginia or any of the museums or anything. We just think they're
Hell
cool.
no.
Go check them out and support them. So if you're from one of the museums and you come across our shows, let us know. We'd love to know and talk to you. So, especially I've been to a few of them already, and it's been a while, but I live in Texas now, so. But anyway, well, we thank you all for listening to the show. David, this has been awesome. And
Josh, you're amazing.
if you guys have not liked or subscribed yet to anywhere, everybody knows what social media is now. I don't need to repeat myself all the time, but we do need to do this little spiel because we need you to like and subscribe to things because that's what makes this get bigger and grow so other people can see it so they can do the same thing. And if you like the show, please do that. And David,
And uh, and please help our algorithm out on the YouTubes and the and all the other because if you actually start liking it and subscribing, that actually helps our algorithm. I don't like that that's a thing. If
I don't
you
like the
people
bag, but just do it. Just do it.
most people call me a conspiracy theorist. I don't think I am. I think I'm a conspiracy realist. However, if you don't like and subscribe, then it doesn't, our reach doesn't get out there and other people can't hear our podcast. So
Yeah,
please do that. Please
we're
tell your
just two
friends.
dudes that like to have fun and talk about
And
this.
I think we do a pretty good job at telling all you what's actually going on in a lot of things. Josh, I love you, man. You're my brother.
Love you, brother.
We'll see you later.
All right. Take care.